Everyone, welcome to the CEO Show. I'm your host, Nick Vaidya. This afternoon, our guest is the founder of the world-famous HotelsComs, Bob Diener, who has recently launched a new venture, GetAroom.com, and it is growing hard and fast in an immensely saturated market. Our goal today is to learn from Bob what it takes to succeed in a competitive marketplace, such as the online booking space. Bob, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us.
Wonderful. So, Bob, most people, and at least average mortals, would say the online booking market is saturated. I mean, there is hotels.com, which you started. It's got over 240,000 hotels, or more than that. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's more than that are part of the system. It's one of the top 5 websites globally ranked in 2012. One wouldn't want to get back into that business, but you are choosing to do that. There must be some reason that, the average guy doesn't see.
Right. Well, there's no question that the online travel business is a saturated market if you're doing the same thing as everyone else. But what we created with GetAroom.com is a different way to book and a way to get consumers values that they can't find anywhere else. And it's all about value. And we know that consumers typically will shop 4 to 5 sites, travel sites, before they finally make a purchase decision. And so we've created some different models. We've created something called the flash sale model. We've created something called unpublished rates that's not available anywhere else. And it's a unique way for consumers to get better values than they can find on any online site.
That's interesting. Now, obviously, you have the domain expertise, the depth of knowledge in the industry and the online booking, and that certainly helps. And I know at least a few other CEOs who will get out of the no compete and then get back into the game all over again. I know a billionaire who does something in healthcare, and he's done it 3 times. So obviously, it speaks to the depth of knowledge that you have. But still, what you're doing, can Expedia not try to replicate it quickly enough? They've got the muscle, they've got the inroads, they've got the channels, and I'm sure you do too, but they probably have more of what you have.
Right, that's a very good question. So I'll walk through with you one of our models, which is the unpublished rate model. And so what's happened in the industry is that pretty much all the other OTAs have outsourced their call centers overseas, because operating call centers is expensive. They've outsourced them to places like India, Philippines, Brazil. And so to move them back into the US is very difficult and very expensive. And so we created a unique model that offers consumers better rates in our call center. So the way it works is that we have about 30,000 hotels that have given us a public rate, and they give us a lower rate called the unpublished rate. Now, we know that today about 70 to 80% of consumers book their hotels online. So very few people call. And so what we tell consumers, do all your research online. Find out what hotel you want. Pick up the phone. It only takes about a minute. Tell us what hotel you're looking for and ask us if we have an unpublished rate. And if we have an unpublished rate, it's typically 10 to 20% less than the lowest online rate and can be as much as 50% less. So it's a very quick and easy way to get a better deal. It takes a very short period of time, but a system like this can really only be operated if you have U.S. call centers, because it takes a high degree of expertise. It takes a certain skill level, and we've trained our agents, and we've created a whole system to book unpublished rates for consumers, and it's very difficult to replicate, especially if you don't have really top-level call center agents and call centers here in the U.S. Our call centers are all in the U.S. We really can't pick the best agents that we could find because we knew them. Most of the U.S. call centers for travel and hotels were let go. So there was great talent out there. And we went and handpicked the very best agents in the industry that are high closers, that know the product. And we created this unpublished rate system.
So you used them against them, like created a barrier to entry for them because you knew what they do and you know what the industry is like. It's in a certain sense, it's like the Walmart approach. I mean, Walmart is within the company that they started. They replicate the model, 1 store, 2nd store, 3rd store. in a certain sense, not exactly the same thing, but you are replicating and you're improving upon it because you have this special knowledge. And so while others might consider not getting into it because of the very fact that you have this information, you are more likely to, you're recommending, it seems, to those who have deep knowledge to figure out ways to improve the existing widget, so to speak, or whatever it is.
Right, well, that's right. So this was really a gap in the marketplace. Really the call center arena, nobody wanted call center business. All the other OTAs that are out there really ran away from the call center business. They didn't want it. They outsourced it. The quality level is a whole different experience when you're speaking to someone in a foreign country that doesn't speak English very well, doesn't know the product. But for us, as a new entrant coming in, number one, we had the connections with the hotels. We know the hotels well. They know we know how to sell their product. And what we brought to them is a whole different audience, a whole new market, and ways for them to push their product. The unpublished rate is just one of them. But it's a great way. We created this efficiently. It's much more expensive for other the OTAs to try to do what we do. We've developed a model where it's very efficient. It doesn't take a long time. We close the sales very quickly. We close at a very high rate because consumers get better deals and because of the quality of the agents. And consumers get a better deal. Everybody wants a better deal. Right. So we created a model from what we saw as a gap in the marketplace. And we created a real niche. So we just didn't come out and try to copy what everyone else did, right, and try to compete with the other OTAs. What we did is created a new model that's different and gives consumers a different way to book. And consumers love to find ways to save money. And for us, once we get a new customer in the call center, it's a customer for life. They develop a relationship with the call center agent, and then we have call center agents that have really a full book of business. Clients constantly calling them, emailing them, and so forth to book, that it becomes a lot more efficient over time.
So this is great. See, typically an entrepreneur, or I wouldn't say entrepreneur, but a dreamerpreneur, person who is dreaming to be an entrepreneur, will come up with ideas, oftentimes, not always, and say, well, this has already been done. Let's see something else if we can come up with. And this is an exercise a lot of dreamerpreneurs do. But what would you recommend based on this specific experience and this specific strategy that you've adopted? What would you recommend? How should people go about choosing what areas to get into or what to do from an entrepreneur's perspective?
Sure. The most important thing is do your homework. What I find that people approach me all the time with business plans, and I'm often asking, well, did you look at this company that's basically doing the same thing or something very similar? And their jaw opens up. And then I ask them, well, what's your business model? How are you going to make a profit? And they tell me, well, we're going to sell advertising. Well, then I tell them, well, how are you going to bring enough customers in to be able to sell advertising? Typically, advertising doesn't work. There are a couple of companies that it works for because they have a lot of expertise at it. But the typical entrepreneur, it's not going to work. So what I find is most people don't do their homework. So it requires really doing the research. Find out, is there a need for this product? What makes you different? What's unique? What is your value proposition? Who else is doing it? So you really need to be thorough. You really need to develop a real business plan. You really need to go out there and see, is this being done? And how are you different? Do focus groups. We put many groups together throughout, before we even started with many groups together, asked them a lot of questions. We tested this model. We refined it over time, especially before we expanded it. We figured out what works. And once we figured out what works well and what's profitable, then we really took it out into a much grander marketplace. But it really takes a lot of homework and really researching your product, researching your value proposition.
Now, would you say that you can take any industry, any segment, literally any business that you're thinking of, chances are that, there are already entrants in there. But if you're pushy, if you keep, as you said, do your homework and keep at it, eventually you will find a way to improve upon it and maybe create a newer sort of market, like Cirque du Soleil kind of thing. Is that what you recommend? What you would recommend to others that pick a topic that you really like, pick an area that you really like, and keep pushing until you find a new way of doing it? Or would you say there are segments and markets that are really done?
Right. Well, there's typically lots of room for innovation. It's a great world that's out there. it's just a great world of commerce for those that can, number one, innovate, and number two, execute. And I see, for example, we have a conference called Focusrite, which is an online travel conference that I go to every year. It has typically the CEOs and major executives of almost every travel company in the world there. And the first day is usually devoted to startup type companies that have something unique. And then we have a whole judging panel that judges them and rates them. And so every year I see a good number of new companies coming out with totally new innovations, things that people have never thought of before. Now, some of them are really viable and really have potential. Some of them don't. But there's a lot of creativity, and those that are really creative and innovate and create different ways to do things, different ways to keep track of your travel, different ways to figure out profits within travel and any other industry. There's typically other ways to do it if you're really creative and innovative, think outside the box. But you've got to do your research. And as you say, there are usually other companies that are doing something similar. How is what you're doing different? How is your service different? How is your product different? And how are you going to bring a value to consumers that's going to encourage them to take your product over something else in the marketplace?
Right.
Are you offering a better price? Are you offering an easier way to do it? Are you offering something that does it a little bit differently? So what is different about your product? And it really is, at the end of the day, all about the value proposition and all about how you're going to execute on your strategy.
So in a certain sense, it's not what you do, but it's how you do, because eventually it comes out to whatever it is you're doing, you got to figure out how to do it right such that you're creating a value for your customers or prospects or, whomever, whatever your end goal is. And as long as you're able to do that, but you be clinical about it, because you might want to think that. We don't want to assume a lot of things. And there is a tendency to assume because you say, I know this market, I know this stuff. And, you've got tunnel vision and so on and so forth. But really make sure that there are no assumptions in your thought process.
Right. And the other thing is that you have to be open. So a lot of people, they come out and they think they have the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they don't listen to criticism. I love criticism. I encourage all our employees. I have an open door policy. If you have a criticism, you have a suggestion, we have a suggestion box where you can put it in anonymously, or you can come in and talk to me or other executives in the company. Because we get our best ideas from our employees and our customers. Customers love to write emails. We read them. That's where we get a lot of great ideas, how to improve the site, how to improve the product. But you need to be open-minded. You need to innovate. You need to move quickly, because everyone makes mistakes. Even the most successful entrepreneurs make mistakes. We've made plenty of mistakes, but we learn from those mistakes, we move on, and we improve. A lot of entrepreneurs, they just go in circles. They make the mistakes. They don't want to listen. They don't want to be open-minded. They don't change. You need to adapt. It's a dynamic marketplace. Things change so quickly. The technology now is growing so fast. It changes constantly. And you need to be up with it. You need to be on top of it. And you need to be able to adapt your product or your service to the marketplace and to the changing environment.
And I suppose in that case, don't be afraid of trying out things, because trying out will tell you whether it worked or didn't work. So in a sense, you're learning and making progress by taking actions, lots of fast actions, lots of thoughtful actions, but take action and don't be afraid to fail.
Well, that's right. And we will try almost everything. And we try all kinds of things in the marketing arena. We typically, part of our success has been being able to market our product in a cost-effective way. Anyone can go out and buy TV ads and spend a lot of dollars. It doesn't mean you're going to bring anything to the bottom line. So you need to be able to do it in a cost-effective way that's going to develop long-term loyal customers. How can you do that in a cost-effective way? And that takes a lot of trial and error. And so we've tried hundreds of different ways to market until we figured out ways that are cost-effective, that result in reliable, great customers that keep coming back to us. But it does take trial and error. Nobody does a roadmap for their business and executes exactly according to the roadmap. It just doesn't work that way. It's a circuitous route, and you have to be ready to adapt and make those changes quickly to adapt to the marketplace.
Right. The goalpost it's a dynamic goal. It's not a static goal. I mean, you sort of know where you're heading, you know the direction, but you don't know the exact address. And so you got to figure out where exactly you go, and you change it with new information because you don't have all the information up front. So
that's right. The one thing that's so unique, especially about the online market, that the flow of information from the customers to their network, to those networks, to other networks, is so robust now that what's critical for a business starting out is that you have integrity in your product, that you have a good reputation, that you treat your customers well. That is critical. That's why we focused our business so much, at least initially, on the call center part, and having really good, high quality customer care agents and sales agents, because then they develop relationships with the customers. And the problem in the travel industry is that there are always hassles. There's flight cancellations, there's all kinds of issues, there's strikes, and so forth. There are always things that can happen. But it's all how you handle the customer in those situations. And if you treat your customers fairly, make them feel like they were treated right. Treat them like you would want to be treated if you were in their shoes. That's the way we train our customer care. Then you're going to get someone that, despite what happens, are going to be loyal customers. And that's how you build a business. By really developing a relationship with the customer. You can do it through, we start out by the phone, then we do it mostly by email communications and maybe through social media such as Facebook. But developing the relationship with the customer, letting them know that you are always there,
right,
24/7, anywhere they are in the world, they can get to you.
Now, if you care so much for your customers and you care for your customers through your employees, I guess you care for your employees immensely as well. Is that one of your fundamental tenets?
Right. One of our fundamental things that we've always done is that we treat employees like owners. Every employee in the company, regardless of value, is an equity holder in our company. We did that at hotels.com. We're doing that at getaroom.com. Because there's a big difference. When you have an employee that's a 9 to 5 employee, they check in, they check out, they don't really care very much. It's just a job, they get their paycheck, and they're not very interested in it, and they leave, they leave. Our employees, it's part of their life. It's their company. Everybody that is at Getaroom, everyone that was at hotels.com, we ran it, was an equity holder of the company. So they felt that this is not just a job. This is their company. And if the company does well, they're going to get rewarded for their equity positions. And so that makes a big difference in terms of how the employees react. And we know that the success of most companies is based on your employees, their level of enthusiasm, quality. You have them in the right positions, having the right executives. But the employees really make or break a company. And by making them feel part of the company, bringing them into the decision-making process, making them equity holders, makes a huge difference on the success of the company.
Interesting. So now when you go out and talk with, give keynote addresses at various associations or perhaps talk with college students or entrepreneurs, you must have your pet 3 or 4 lessons that you've learned, examples that you quote to your employees as you get into meetings. What are some of the things that you really like to talk about?
Right. Well, number one, I tell them that they have to really research their product. They really need to understand the marketplace. Most people don't do enough. So that's number one. Laying the major foundation, testing. Most people come to me and they think they have the greatest plan and they want to spend all the money they have and go raise money and take it national or take it worldwide. I tell them that's the wrong approach. I tell them start slowly, start small, figure out what works, test it. Once you figure out a formula and you know it works and it's successful, then you can put more dollars behind it. Then you can raise dollars for it. Don't start day one trying to make something big and global. Start very small. Watch your bottom line. Most businesses fail because they don't watch the bottom line. And you need to watch it. We watch it like a hawk. Because at the end of the day, you need to run a profitable business. If you're not running a profitable business, you shouldn't be in it. It's all about your profit at the end of the day. You can't just spend on the top line without bringing profits into the bottom line. So you've got to watch your margins. You've got to watch your expenses. You've got to be very, 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 very cautious of overspending. And I'm what you call a conservative entrepreneur. I believe you'll have much more success if you're conservative. Now, some companies will spend a fortune, lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and at some point make it. That's a handful of companies. Most companies that are successful started small, they figured it out, they build up their profits over time. So you've got to have patience, and you've really got to watch the bottom line.
At least if you want to succeed by design and not by a fluke or a chance, then you've got to do that.
I also think that you can just build your company, just do a lot of advertising, you build your company, and they forget about the whole customer service portion of it. And there's so many companies that I see out there, they're busy, they advertise, they're expanding, but they don't treat the customers right. We know that customers want to come to some place they feel comfortable. They'll pay more for a product if they know there's a company that stands behind it. People like to shop in a store, they know that there's a good refund policy. If you're not happy with the product, you can bring it back. Who wants to shop at a store even though you got 5% off if they'll never talk to you after you purchase it, if they won't help you with the product, if they won't refund it if it's a problem? So it's very important that you build a company around your customer care and around taking care of your customers and making your customers feel like they are important. They should be the most important thing. And the customer is always right. Even when they're wrong, they're right. You need to have a really fair policy. And you need to develop loyalty with your customers, and you need to communicate with your customers. You can communicate. There's, it's so inexpensive today to do it via email and other communications, but you need to have a regular communication with the customer. Make sure you're responding to them, listen to them. And again, find the right employees. Make your employees feel really part of the company. And figure out ways to grow your company efficiently. And it's not just advertising. The holy grail of most businesses is marketing efficiency. How to do it? How do you bring customers into your door in a way that you can earn more profit than what you're spending to bring those customers in?
Right. And you, like you said, if you care for your customer, if you say, I truly care, I will refund your money in case you're not satisfied, you've got to follow through that one. You can't just make a claim. You got to mean it. And if you're going to mean it, then you will not only take care of your customer, but also make sure that your product truly has value for an average customer. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to make such a tall claim.
There's no question. What I found over time, even before the explosion of social media, that when you have a customer that's satisfied and happy and got a great deal, they are going to be your ambassador. They will go to the cocktail party. They will go to the mixer. They will contact their friends. They will tell them what a great deal, especially when it comes to travel. Right. Because everybody loves to travel. And people love to talk about where they went, where they stayed, something unique about it, and the great value that they got, and the good service that they got. And what we also find out about travel and many other industries is that one of the major reasons for making the decision about where to go or where to stay is that somebody recommended it. They want to know that somebody else was happy with the experience. So when we get a getaroom.com customer that's happy, they got a great value, they're out there, we're likely to see 10 to 20 times that amount of business just from that one customer. That's much more effective than buying the ad on TV.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, in this industry, you go to Facebook, that's exactly what you see. What did I do? Where did I go? And they want to promote that idea. So obviously in the social media sphere, it makes it all the more pertinent that, you don't get dissatisfied, unhappy customers because they're going to make noise about it and everybody else is going to hear. So the word of mouth gets exponentially replicated in the current media rather than in the past.
Right. And that's always been the case, but it's even more so now. Now It has an exponential effect.
Right.
Because people can get on bulletin boards and get on different social media sites and really get the message out there. You want that message to be positive.
Correct.
They're basically yourself.
Correct. Bob, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and we got some valuable nuggets out in this conversation, which I'm sure you live through on a daily basis. But for us, for our audience, I think this will be a tremendous addition to the repertoire.
It was a pleasure being with you today.
Likewise. Thank you.